I'm in.
Success. That's okay.
Recording in progress, and I'd like to open the meeting. Academy Community Center Building Committee. This is Monday, April 10th, and ostensibly 5:30 p.m., but probably more like 5:40 p.m. now. Technical difficulties got us started a little late. I had a number of people call, let me know that they would not be able to make this meeting. Dave Spurley isn't be able to make it, and neither is AJ. But that still leaves someone who's the Joe Paradiso. I have not heard from him, so we don't have a quorum at the moment, but hopefully we, other than doing the minutes,
I think with 4 of us we have a quorum. Yes.
2, 3, 1, 2. Oh yes, 4 of us. We have a quorum. I wasn't counting myself. You had to do that. Okay. And imagine, is Jacqueline or Jeannie on, or Aaron? Are you the host at the moment? You're muted.
Jeannie's on.
Yep, Jeannie is on now. So Jeannie and I are both hosts. So I may, if I cut out here, Jeannie will be able to co-host.
And the reason is first item on the agenda is public comment. So
Oh, okay.
I wanted to open it up for public comment, and Jeannie usually.
Yep. So Bill Stableford is here with his hand. His hand was raised.
I spoke to Bill earlier, and he would like a few minutes of our time to as we get started.
Okay, excellent. All right. Bye, Jeannie. So how do you normally do that, Joe? Do you transfer him over to be a panelist, or would you like him just to speak? Panelist?
Panelist, yes.
Okay, got it. He's coming over.
Good afternoon, Bill. And you're muted at the moment. I presume you'll be on in just a short amount of time. There you are.
There we go. Thank you. Oh, okay. Thank you, folks. Just a quick inquiry. We on the Academy Advisory Committee met last week, and we just wondered if you folks have any comments or feedback on our outcome report. And then if you do, that's fine. Then I'll just mention a few things about how we hope to make these results available to the public. So we're open to any feedback you guys might have.
I'll be honest, I haven't had a lot of time to look at it, Bill. I've given you feedback earlier. And what I intend on doing is going back to some of the earlier information we had that lists the individual age categories and their preferences, and be sure that we're not using preferences for the whole group, which will be overwhelmed by either the on one side by the high school students and on the other side by seniors. And I want to be sure that we're hitting that middle ground too. But I haven't had a chance to really do that yet.
Any other comments? Okay,
Just from my perspective, I think that both the youth and the senior shouldn't be discounted too greatly, because the youth is going to be using this as much as probably the people in the other brackets. And I would assume that we would also have some senior events. So I think it's good to see that overall picture. I understand why we want to kind of focus on the priorities, but the youth are the people who are going to be using this in the future, hopefully, especially if they stay in Madison.
we may,
I'll give you a quick example. When Anne is on, we went to see the Rocky Hill Community Center. As part of the Rocky Hill Community Center, they have I'm not sure it was a preschool. It wasn't a nursery school. It was a preschool. A preschool wouldn't be on anybody's, usually wouldn't be on either the youth or the over 65 group. It probably wouldn't be among their top priorities. But it was a great addition to the community center. Not that we want to do that, but again, as an example of how you could miss something if you look at either end and just look at either end. That's why I want to be sure to look in the middle, and it would be something like it may not be that exactly, but it'd be something like something that was very important to people in their 30s and not so much on either end.
we made our committee members made concerted efforts to hit that demographic. As Peggy Lyons said the other night, they're finding with the cannabis survey and the transportation survey, they're only getting about 250 respondents to each of those. So we visited daycare center, parent groups, everything, and you can't, as much as we like, we couldn't force anybody to complete it. So we left no page unturned in the demographics. And if you look at the mapping system that we provided on the 3rd floor, there's one room along the hallway that was designated as a high priority for a drop-in center for mothers with young children. And that, of course, will eventually be up to you guys, but it was a single room in the building that looked very favorable to us as a potential place for preschool children to show up with their parents.
Any other comments for Bill?
Okay, we do want to publicize this, and we want to be very sensitive in our sensitive to not boxing you guys in our printed and digital copies. There were 3 separate statements to the effect that these are expressed preferences only. There's no guarantee that any particular activity or building feature will be in the final renovation. So we're just going to make very explicitly clear to the public that between budget and structural realities, you folks with the OPM and architect will be making the final call on whatever ends up in the building.
I think that's an important caveat, and we've tried to emphasize that whenever, especially when we've been talking to the Madison Youth and Family Services and Building and Rec, but they certainly would get priority, but
Yes.
there could be things that would prevent us from giving them the exact space they want.
Okay, that's all I have. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Bill. Thank you for your comment. Jeannie, are there any other members of the public?
Not with a hand raised at this time.
Okay, thank you, Jeannie. Next up is the approval of the minutes, of the March 28th minutes. I have them here. Are there any corrections or any additions to from any of the members here? Anybody? That would be Tom or Al. Al, are you okay? Okay. You don't look as quite as upfront into the camera as you usually are. Anyway, does anybody have any additions or corrections to the meeting minutes of March 28th?
Joe, I have one very minor correction. On the bottom of the second page, section 5, the fourth paragraph, it should be Rocky Hill, not Rock Hill.
Good. Any others? Thank you very much, Jeannie, for the thorough minutes. Rock Hill is, don't know where that is in Connecticut, but that's not the, that would be the only addition or only correction. Next up, the Collier's report.
Don't we need
And,
to make a motion to approve the minutes?
Oh, we did make a change, right? Well, so we have to make it. Do we have to
I think
approve it?
anyways we have
You-
to,
you
right?
need to-
I make a
we need
motion
to-
to-
Okay.
We
Okay,
need to
who would
move
like-
in. Yeah.
Who would like to make the motion?
Go ahead,
Motion. Or Aileen can motion and I'll second. How does that sound?
Okay,
Sounds good. And the motion would be to approve the minutes as corrected with the Rocky Hill. Any other discussion on that? All in favor? Aye. Aye.
Aye.
4 of us.
Abstain.
Oh, abstain.
Yep, I wasn't there. So I need to abstain.
Oh, okay. You weren't at the meeting. on the
Right.
20
so
Okay,
can we even approve them then? Because then we're
Yes.
not a quorum without
We
you.
are a quorum. I can abstain.
Okay,
Yep.
okay,
It's the number of people. It's not the number of votes.
gotcha. Thank you.
got it. Any other parliamentary things that I might have missed? This be your time. I mean, come on. Okay, the Collier's report, and I had a couple of sections on that, Mark and John. The working group scheduling, there's a couple of, if I look at that, there are a couple of places where it's noted but not scheduled. And then the milestone, then an overall update of the milestone schedule as you gave it to us last week.
Thanks, Sean. I'm gonna have John lead us through this as he's been doing the lion's share of the work for the last couple of weeks. So go ahead, John.
All right, thank you, Mark. Good evening, everybody. I'll share my screen here and bring up the latest milestone schedule. Can everybody see my screen?
Yep.
Okay, so what we've done since the last meeting is what's shown below the red line here. So the last meeting was on March 28th, and then these couple of items here have occurred since that meeting. 2 of the significant meetings that have occurred is with Tom and his group from the architectural firm. We met with both the Beach and Rec Austin, and then we also followed up the following day on the 31st of March to discuss the youth and family services programming. So both of those meetings were very productive. I'll let Tom speak to those in more detail in the next item on the agenda. But both of those have occurred. And then obviously the community center tour to Rocky Hill occurred last week as well. So this is where we're at presently. What we have looked at doing after discussing some of the scheduling with Tom is to extend the schematic design phase out 1 month in order to accommodate some of the challenges that Tom has with trying to do some of the programming, getting some of that coordination done. Again, Tom can speak to that in more detail, But just to let you know, this will not impact or affect the long-term macro schedule. The completion date of the CD or construction documents will remain the same. And in order to accommodate the extended month on the schematic design phase, we'll just scale back a little bit from each of the design document phase and the construction document phase. So again, the long-term schedule will not be impacted, but Tom is looking to have a little bit more time to address the schematic design, some of the time that's required to get some of the existing conditions, some of that preliminary work by his team is sort of requiring that the SD phase be a little bit longer than we had initially projected. So what we're doing, we just pushed out a couple of the items. The proposal for the estimating is now, pushed out a little bit due to the extended time frame there, and some of the other dates are, to be scheduled. The working group meetings, I believe last meeting we established who was going to be the members for that. And then based on Tom's thinking and scheduling, planning ahead, we'll look at trying to start scheduling those accordingly with that group. The first one of those is shown during the week of April 17th, sometime next week. Another one following the week after that. And then, as needed as we go through the next month or two. So this,
we get a little more specific with the working group dates, or is that something that Tom will weigh in on?
We can. I was not aware of any specific date and time that had been selected yet, Joe. So that's why I did not put a specific day or time frame in there yet. But if that's something we can coordinate and agree to, we can look at putting that in as a specific date, certainly moving forward.
I think Joe, it's gonna be you and Dave Spearley. So if we can land on a day and a time that works with you,
Right.
and Tom and John and myself, we'll lock those in.
Well, why don't we have most of us here. Dave's schedule is malleable to some extent. What would be a date for some of the other members of the group, Mark and especially Tom?
Well, let's hear from Tom first.
Yeah.
Refer to Tom.
I am pretty flexible. You've got the week of the 17th on the schedule. I'm open pretty much the whole week in the afternoons or evening, except for Tuesday. So 17, 19, 20, 21 all work for me.
Or I'm available in the afternoons, but not in the evenings on the 18th and the 19th.
Yeah, these should be during the day. They shouldn't be in the evenings.
Okay.
Ideally.
So that puts me available, except I haven't done my taxes yet. I don't know, hope I'm not doing them on the, I haven't finished them yet. I hope I'm still not doing them on the 17th. But let's just say I might be. So let's not, let's say the 18, 19, 20, 21, I'm available.
Oh, why don't we plan for the 19th around 3 o'clock or something like that?
How does that work for you, John?
Wednesdays are good for me, Mark. So yeah, if it works for Joe and for Tom, then we can lock it in for the 19th at 3 o'clock. And
Can we go ahead and just can lock in that day, Wednesdays at 3 o'clock for the next 2 months?
sure.
So yeah, it's reoccurring.
We could reoccurring and I'll talk to Dave. Dave's coaching a baseball game. So he'll be available soon. I'll give him a call and have that set up. How many weeks out was that, Tom?
That's next week.
I
Next
know, but
Wednesday.
how many weeks out did you make it recurring?
Oh, I didn't, John.
Yeah, we haven't scheduled anything yet, Joe, officially, but I mean, Tom, do you want to have this go out till the end of May, or do you want to?
I would say, why don't we have it go out at least till Memorial Day, end of May 31st or whatever. And then we'll check after that. I think over the next 6 weeks, things are gonna start ramping up.
I just want to make sure that this is a subcommittee, correct, of the
Correct.
major committee.
Correct.
It
Right.
still falls under the same FOIA, so there's somebody needs to take minutes to the meetings, they have to be submitted in, and the meetings have to be noticed. This was something that the town clerk sent out to everyone. If there's a subcommittee, they fall under the same rules as the regular committee. I just want to remind everybody of that piece of it.
This subcommittee operates entirely in executive session.
And why is that?
I'm joking.
Joking.
Apparently it didn't go over very well.
I know.
Don't
Not a
quit your
good
day
job.
job, Tom.
You know something, Tom? I'll give you a little hint if you didn't know it. Joking about FOIA with Joan is just not going to go over.
Yeah, it's not gonna go over. I'm the one defending all the stuff on Facebook, so please, let's keep it open and honest.
Sounds good.
We'll, at the first meeting, no, I guess actually we have to notice those meetings now. Jeannie? Can you set those up and notice them, please?
Joan, do
Actually-
these have to be,
Actually,
do these have to be open to the public too?
Yes, they should be. This is a public meeting. Al's nodding his head, and this is all stuff that we've been through quite a bit. I've gone through FOIA training more than a couple of times every time we're elected or have been elected. So this is a public situation. So if you're going to do it via Zoom, or you notice where you're physically meeting in person so that people can come into that meeting and sit down and just watch.
Okay. Would it matter if we were called a working group meeting versus a subcommittee meeting?
Doesn't matter. You're part of this committee.
Okay.
Yeah.
And Joan, will next week's meeting on the 17th be a special meeting
Actually, the meeting's on the 19th.
on the 19th? I'm
Yes,
just,
Wednesday, the 19th, just to clarify.
So Jean, so far there's two subcommittees. There's the finance subcommittee that's been formed and now the working group subcommittee that's been formed. So.
Jeannie, if you please, hold off until tomorrow to set those meetings up.
absolutely.
I'm going to talk to Dave tonight, and I'll check with him to be sure that he has some or all of the availability for that time.
Thank you, Joe.
My thought is it's probably best to do it on Zoom. You can record it and then minutes can be then drawn from them. Just a thought, but if you're going to be in person, somebody does actually physically have to take notes then. And there is a form that's going to be coming out about a new form, I believe, coming out soon. A template that'll allow that to be easier to do.
And Tom, I believe we said that these meetings would be in person. Is that correct?
Yeah. That generally works pretty well. Maybe we could play that by ear. Can we do that? Or does it have to be set for the entire time?
Set it for the first one and see how we can change it, right, Joan? I mean, we could do one, whatever we do on the 19th. We can do and then change it going forward if it works or doesn't work.
All right.
I don't think there's any rule against like Zoom versus in person or whatever. It's whatever works best. It's just that you've got to notice and then there's X number of days to get the minutes in post the meeting. So.
Okay, let's do the first one in person, please.
All right.
And do we do it, John or Mark? Do we do it in the Collier's office, or Tom, do you have a space, or do we do it in town hall?
No, we could, well, it doesn't
Well,
matter. If
if-
you do it in town hall, we can do it in town hall, or we can do it in our office, either one.
But if it's open to the public, we may want to do it at town office.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
At the town hall versus our office. I don't know how many people we can fit in here if they all show up.
Yeah, good point.
I don't anticipate crowds coming, but you never know.
Right.
I mean, even one person, I know getting into Collier's, you can't just walk in the door.
Right.
So I imagine town hall would be better. Jeannie, could you find a small meeting room for us, please?
I will.
Thank you.
So I think that essentially covers, our Collier's report, Joe. like I said, the milestone schedule, we're looking to modify that to reflect the additional time that Tom's looking to take advantage of for the schematic design aspect. And then I'll update this according, or actually, I'll wait to hear that Dave is okay with those meeting dates, and then I'll update the milestone accordingly then.
John, one of the things I'd like you to do is issue the RFP for estimating services. Could you put that as a TBD instead? I'd like to have a couple of these working group meetings under our belt before we put that RFP up.
Yes, actually, that was pushed out a bit because of the extended SD phase, Joe. So, but yeah, I can put TBD on that
Let's
instead.
put a TBD on it until and then we'll set a date as we get it once we get a couple of meetings under our belt.
Certainly.
Thank you. Oh, also, John, my calendar says we went to Rocky Hill on the 4th, not the 5th. And is that, do I have that correct? I didn't reschedule at the last minute, did I? Ann and I were both at the Rocky Hill.
It was the 4th. It was Tuesday.
Okay, we had been copied on an email that indicated it was the 5th, so we can change that. No problem.
And we're on the community centers. Eileen, do you have an update for us?
So the Branford schedule, that guy, Alex said I spoke with there, said the 18th worked for him, but I've not been able to get him to commit to a time yet. I've asked for 3:30. Middletown, the fellow that I talked to Mark gave me the contact information of the guy that I talked to when I was checking references. He never got back to me. I reached out to him a couple times, and I'm thinking he may not be a permanent employee there. He may have only been somebody who was like on a building committee. So I've reached out to the Beach and Rec, the head of the Beach and Rec, and I've not heard back from them yet either. But I have checked with both. So I guess I don't have anything firm except for that. As far as I know, we're doing something on the 18th, just don't know what time yet.
Could you add that to the list, please, but the time TBD? And then Wyndham, which is quite a drive from Madison, is available anytime this week. I had it scheduled, and because I was the only one who was going to be going, I said, well, maybe I'll pull back on. It was a rainy, cold day too. So I pulled back on that date. And is there anyone who would like to drive all the way up to Wyndham with me and to see the Wyndham Community Center? And before anyone answers that, Mark, is this a good one to see, or is this marginal?
Yep,
Okay.
this would be a good one. Yep.
Okay. Well, if
What was the date that you wanted to go? I apologize.
I have Tuesday, any day this week except coming week except Friday. So Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday of this coming week. And he's available pretty much anytime. And
This is a tough week for me. I'm kind of heads down with the business stuff. But
I'll reschedule it, and maybe Vanessa and I will take a ride up there and find some little lunch place or a little place to have lunch and get and then get the tour. But I will send an invitation out when I talk to the contact person up there, and anyone who's available can respond.
and then let Vanessa know we want her at the next meeting then too.
Ad hoc members, I don't think that's anyway, there's nothing in the rules about that. I think Tom, if we the working group schedule, the milestone schedule update, we've gotten that. the architect report. Anything else on the Collier's report section? If not, Tom, the floor is yours.
I have, Joe, unless there's any questions for us.
You have something, John?
No, I said I don't have anything else unless there are
Okay.
any questions for us.
Hearing none, Tom, you have the floor.
Great, thank
You have
you.
the screen.
So, as John mentioned, we toured, we met with Austin last week, Beach and Rec offices. We toured some of their facilities to identify what they currently have, what they project to have, what we think their staff is. Our interviews included not just what their space needs will be or are, but how they function, to get a feel for how that programming can be incorporated within the spaces that were allocated to them. We did the same thing with Youth and Family Services. We met with Scott. We spent a good chunk of time. We saw his facilities, we toured it, looked at how they function, looked at their staffing needs, where the discrepancies are, took notes on all of that. And over the last week, we're able to try and translate that to the floor plates to see how it works out. I'm going to share my screen. Yeah, let's see if I can do this one. Screen two. Can you see my screen now? Share. So can you see the floor plate that I'm showing right now?
Yes.
So this is the proposed main floor, main level. There are 3 levels in the building. Lower level is actually the basement level. Main level is half a level up from grade, and then the upper level is the upper level of the building. The area of space colored yellow was the space allocated originally by the Study and Advisory Committee for Beach and Rec offices. You can see that we've done a simple configuration of this space that would allow for against the exterior wall office for the director, and then 2 offices for the recreation supervisor. Additionally, we've added an office for a facility director, which is a staff person that would be specifically dedicated for overseeing and managing the whole building. This could also be swing space. And then there's a central office space, which would have administrative services, a direct transaction window to the corridor. This is a way that they can take registration or do interaction with the public without having to have public come into the office. This is a really efficient way to lay out these administrative offices. You see this quite frequently in a lot of town halls and administrative spaces. It allows us to use the corridor space as waiting space. And then there's a storage and copy room that would be integrated as a part of the space, as well as in the main office, there would be swing desks for interns or program directors or instructors to use that space. Overall, we think this is a good layout. It meets their program needs, other than they need a meeting or conference space. But directly to the left of this is a small community space, and then community meeting space. So those 2 meeting spaces could be used on a swing basis by Beach and Rec for programming or meetings as need be. So I think the layout of this space works based on their simple program needs, We would have a management office in the lower right-hand corner. We would cut some windows from that space into the stairwell and into the main corridor. So there would be visual observation of who's coming and going, as well as, I think this is the main administrative offices would probably be where we would have CCTV observation of the whole facility. I'll go through this and then we can have some question and answer thereafter. This was the original concept floor plan, which identified youth services, youth and family services in yellow underneath the gymnasium space. After meeting with both Austin and Scott, we identified probably a pretty large need for building storage. And what's identified as youth and family service offices is unfortunately the most ideal space for storage in the building. It's subterranean, it has no windows or has one single window directly adjacent to activity spaces. This center block, I don't know if you can see my cursor moving, is really the ideal spot for building recreation and programming storage. So I'm struggling with the idea of this space being used for youth and family services. So having met with Scott and his team, I'm proposing a slightly different layout. So now you're seeing the third floor layout of the building. Originally, the youth and family services was projected to occupy the lower side of the plan, the lower left corner, and what is really the east side of the building. And then in the middle of the building, in between the community arts and crafts room and the two-story foyer, were going to be central bathrooms. But because of the way youth and family services needs to function, with a centralized access, secure access lobby and waiting area, and then distribution to the offices and counseling spaces, I'm recommending reconfiguring the bathrooms so that they straddle a secure vestibule and waiting space. Behind that would be administrative lobby, which oversees the waiting space and can provide access to the space, and then an internal waiting area. All of the offices and counseling rooms would be then against the east wall of the building, and we can use the courtyard wall of the building. You can see there's existing windows that look down into the center court as offices, so there would be natural light there. And then in the bottom left corner of the building would be, again, administrative offices and counseling rooms and a conference space. I think this layout is much more efficient and it uses the same footprint essentially as was originally designated. The two bathrooms, I have them colored in yellow here. Those would actually be colored as community space. The significant change that I'm proposing, and I think makes a lot of sense, would be to move youth and family services offices directly across the hall. So in lieu of them being buried under the gymnasium, I think those spaces should be for programming and for storage. And I think that the youth services offices should be directly across the hall from family services. That would have a central office space, directors and program services space, internal copy. Youth and Family Youth Services also has a programming need for small group and large group meeting space. That was originally identified at the lower level, so there would be small group and large meeting space. I would recommend that the community spaces at this level, in the upper left-hand corner and directly adjacent to it, be swing spaces. During the day, they could be used as youth services, small group meeting space and large group meeting space. And then those could be communities, youth spaces in the evenings and on weekends. I think this is a better allocation of the space, serves youth services better, and allows youth services to be directly adjacent to family services. Also in this plan, we would have the stairwell along the east side of the building would allow secure access to family services. This would allow that entrance on the east side of the building to be used as a discrete access to family services for people that wanted to park at the street and use the stair. At this floor level, the community space would stay as dedicated community space. That's essentially the arts and crafts space. And that would remain at the end of the building. So I've put both of these program spaces informally in front of Austin and Scott. For the most part, they think that it works pretty well. So I've asked them to give me, to look at it in more detail and give me some feedback regarding it.
So I lowered my hand originally, whoever
Oh,
wants
I
to
see.
first on this one. We've got a lot of hands written.
Okay, great. Help, if
I
you
can't
could
s-
help me
I-
moderate, because I
Yeah.
can't see all the hands
I don't
and
think
my
I,
screen.
yeah, I don't think I can see it either. Oh, no, now I can see it. Okay, I have it on another. Where do we begin? At the
I would
top
let
of my,
Joan and Ann go first before me. So let Joan was first, actually. She had her hand up earlier.
okay,
So I'm gonna be brutally honest here. All of the all of the conspiracy theories will come true if the entire upper level is, 85% town use. I see that as a significant issue. Quite honestly, there was a lot of push to make sure that there was as much community space as possible. And I think dedicating some prime real estate, which the upper level is, to town offices may be problematic with the community. And I think we would want to show community conversations about some of these things, considering arts, crafts, and things like that were very strong. And the natural light that would be up there on the third floor. That's my first bit of thing. Second piece is that the discrete entrance is not ADA compliant. You can't get up there. So I think that we've got to think about that as an issue as well. And that, we need to make sure that there's privacy. So either we have kind of an open area for youth and family, and I know Scott's on here as well, but I think that this will get a tremendous amount of pushback, this current look and design, from the public, and there will be a bit of contention around it. The other piece is the amount of space for beach and rec. If they're keeping the surf club space, then how much do we really need in this office? How many offices, how many people, who are the people that are going to be there? And I think that also will be a bit problematic, because the initial thought was there was going to be 1 or 2 people there, and now it looks like a good portion of the team will be in academy. If they're giving up their space at the surf club, I don't think that's going to be an issue. If there isn't going to be that give up, I think once again, there's going to be a bit of pushback, quite frankly. So I like thinking outside the box, but I think we have to really be conscious of the fact that prior to going to referendum, there was talked about that this wasn't going to become a town hall, so to speak, with only a little bit of the community space to be allowed. And to have most of the community space on the lower level is not a strong look. I can hear it now.
I'd like to have a follow-up question to Jones, actually a clarifying question. Tom, have you done a look at the number of square feet that was originally laid out for Madison Youth and Family Services? The current amount of square footage that Madison Youth and Family Services has, and what this current representation, what is their current square footage?
Yeah, so this representation reflects what was originally allocated in the program space. I have not added more square footage. I just moved youth services, and it's basically just the youth services offices. I've just moved it from the bowels of the basement to a space where they would actually have windows.
What is their current square footage?
I would have to I don't have that number in front of me. I'll have to get that for you, Joe.
Yeah, I think that's, if we're gonna go to the town with 5 times the amount of square footage they have now, that's a hard look. If it's 1.5 times what they have now, that's easier. But I share Joan's concern that it is not, that this isn't a good look for the town.
I'm not concerned necessarily about the amount of space. I'm concerned about the
And the
kind of
location.
estate it's taking up.
Right.
Because they are woefully underspaced right now and have been for well over 10 years. I just want to make that statement right off the bat. I'm not talking about necessarily the space, the amount of space and the need for the programming needs, because I'm very well aware of that. I'm more of the fact that I thought originally there was going to be a good amount of offices for counseling upstairs, and then some programming for youth downstairs in the lower level. And if we could speak about it as a lower level and not the bowels out, I think that would be a good idea as well.
I understand that, but you also have to realize that the location in the lower level is literally an internal space. And I understand that there would be political perception that, that space at the third level doesn't want to be allocated to offices or to service spaces, but
Right.
this is literally, unwindowed space.
But it was unwindowed space when it was looked at originally. It was
Now,
not like
understood.
we didn't take the windows
disputing.
out.
Right, so there's got to be a balance between what the town's employees' needs and the program's needs are, and I think if we look at the lower level again, if we could, that there is some community space that could potentially be used for storage just a little bit further. And I do get it, that would be ideal to actually have that space under the stage, which would be perfect for theater and being able to be part of a potentially theater area. That would be perfect. I'm just very much concerned that maybe we move it over to another space that has different windows at the lower level is a potential. So I'll stop
Can I
speaking.
stop here
Let
for a
others.
second? Can I stop here for a second and have Anne? She's been waiting patiently. If you want to add in a different concern or add into this concern.
My concern is different. My question is different. So I'm willing to continue to wait patiently.
Okay.
Joe, my question is along the same vein, if you don't mind, if I could ask my question.
Sure, go ahead. Go ahead.
So again, Tom, just to be clear, because I wasn't, at the programming meetings, but when we originally laid this out conceptually, Scott walked that lower level and was generally okay with it. I know he liked the proximity of it away from the more public spaces. I mean, clearly, he saw what was in there for daylight, with the lack of windows or minimal windows. Did something come up at the meeting that is causing you or your team to think differently about youth development down there? Did he say something?
This was not driven by Scott. This was driven by me.
Okay.
It was my professional assessment as designer and your consultant that Youth and Family Services would be better located functionally at the same level with youth services with family services, and that the offices, that one space, that one classroom space would be a much better fit for the types of function that they're doing. So I recommend this change. Will those program spaces fit in that basement area? Yes, they will. They were originally allocated as that. We can draw it that way. But as your professional and consultant, I think it's much better served overall at, in the community, the classroom space on the upper level.
Okay, so Scott's got this plan, and he's reviewing it, and he'll give feedback as to whether or not he.
Scott says is one of the participants. We can ask him to join the meeting, actually.
Oh, that would help.
Please
Thanks, Joan.
promote Scott to so that he can be part of the meeting.
Panelists.
Panelist, there you go.
Hold on, I'm doing it.
Austin looks like a baseball coach out there.
Sorry.
What was attractive, Tom, about this space is that it required very little reconstruction to fit their needs, and moving it upstairs, I get what you're saying, just adds more heavy renovation scope to the program, to the project.
Yes, but there's another reason that another reason that I think it makes sense is we've talked about trying to manage the budget.
Yeah.
And using the lower level as an alternate allows us greater flexibility in managing the overall budget. By moving the program space out of that level, now the entire lower level can, isn't dependent, it isn't tied to a necessary tenant. So I don't have to have any renovation happen at that level. So it gives us more flexibility to use that lower level as swing or alternate renovation space.
Yeah, I think we could still tackle that, if we're looking at budgetary issues when we estimate. But I saw Scott was on the line. Scott, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay.
How y'all doing?
Good, Scott. How are you?
I'm good. So can I just comment briefly on the process as for where we are, where I'm kind of thinking right now in terms of the conversation. So as Tom said, we met on Friday. We reviewed, how we got to this point in terms of our space requests. And I just want to point out that lower level space for youth and family, that was part of the discussion early on when the idea of putting youth and family into the community center came up. And that lower level was meant for 4 offices. And then that open area, and on your schematic, it says youth development in that yellow box. Our intention was to leave that space open as a group area. And as you're looking at that schematic to the far right, there's that little conference room there. That was going to be our small group space. And by my estimates, it's about 1,800 square feet of that space. I have a copy of the old blueprints to the building, so I'm pretty sure that that's a pretty accurate count in terms of what was allocated to us. What Tom proposed was to put our staffing space on the second level. So really the only significant change is instead of 4 offices that we would have put in the youth development space in the lower level, we would then move to the upper floor in that classroom area, which I think is about maybe 900 square feet or less than that. Now that means that I'd be giving up, or we would be giving up, our activity space, and that's not something that I would be okay with. What we would be, I guess, working with Beach and Rec on would be to use those 2 front classrooms on the second floor and basically understand that as shared space. So I did talk with Austin about that, and we do think we could work out a method in which on the second floor, can you move it back to the second floor, Tom? Would you be able to do that? So what we'd be doing is moving those youth prevention office spaces that were in the lower level up to the top level. And those 2 front classroom areas, we would share that space for our activities with the town. So we're not taking up that space, but I would work with Austin around a method by which we would share that space. And what's important to us is just that we have priority to that area during times where we want to run particular groups. That's what we're missing now. And what we would have been gaining in the lower level is just an area to do groups that is under our control. So we're not competing with other departments or other town needs in order to run the programs that we run. So I'll be very honest with all of you. When Tom brought up this idea, it did scare me. And I think Joan said it right off the top for the perception. I think if this is something that the building committee agrees with, we're fine with, because it does make sense for our prevention staff to be on the same floor. And with the idea that instead of having group programming space that we directly control 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, we'd now be sharing that. I think that works fine for us. And if it does not work for the building committee, for the town, we're fine with what we originally signed up for, which was that group activity space in those offices in the lower level.
Scott, I just have a follow-up question on
Sure.
this layout. I remember when we were laying this out originally, there was a concern about not just the youth, but just people that were generally coming to the building.
Mhm.
And the sensitivity of the services that they were seeking.
Yep.
How do you feel, given that, let's say, 80% of this floor is occupied with your services, but still having that community space in the middle, or maybe those 2 small classroom spaces being used for Beach and Rec, and the mixing of the 2 different types of uses? Is there a concern?
No, and that's a great question, and I'll tell you why it's not a concern. So the areas that are the most sensitive to us have to do with social services and our clinical services counseling. So those would be self-contained in that main block of space on the second floor. We would have that, thanks Tom, where we would have controlled access going in and out. And whether our prevention staff is across the hall or down in the lower level, what our prevention folks do is not as sensitive, because that's a lot of group programming. That's a lot of peer-to-peer training and things that of that nature, where the sensitivity is not the same as it is for counseling. So really what Tom came up with is very consistent with what we had talked about early on, a secured access and a discrete access. And Joan, I hear you with the question of not having elevator access for that second floor. As long as we have access to the suite for social services, if we did have somebody who had limitations, physically to reach that space, they could use the elevator. I think what's important to us is to have that remote access for somebody who, did not want as much attention to their entering our spaces for whatever reason. And that could be for social services or for counseling. And they would have to make a decision if, they weren't able to use the stairs in order to access our space, they'd have to use the public entrance. And if, that would then become their choice.
Can we hold for a second and ask Anne? She said she had a different concern. Let's maybe get that on the floor also.
Sure. Is there a plan for providing gender neutral bathrooms? And is that something that is an issue for us?
I think it's an excellent idea personally. And I think it's something that we could. It's the wave of the future, quite frankly. I've seen it in new renovated buildings quite a bit, just bathroom, so to speak.
And you could do that on the second floor. That I think that came up when we were talking on Friday about like those bathrooms could just be bathrooms, gender neutral.
Anything further that promotes the discussion? Because I have a suggestion, but I'll take any other comments first. Okay, then and Scott and Tom, I think this is I understand this is a proposal, but this is the first group that's up to bat. We have other people who will want or who will need space. 53,000 square feet sounds like a lot until you start dividing it up. I don't think we have to I would like to defer any decision on this one way or the other. We're still in a very early phase. And I'd like to hear from some of the other, I'd like to be able to consider some of the other uses that may or may not need a particular space on this level or on the lower level. And then when we look at we get a more holistic look at the needs and the spaces and the priorities, that we keep this as an open option, but not a final design.
And I think the critical piece that I want to reinforce from Scott is the fact that the counseling and this family services piece needs to have its true own space and its true entrance, and then the flexibility of the other stuff. But we absolutely want to make sure that has the privacy that it needs.
Any other further comment? Because we might be able to move on from here if there are no other comments on the Youth and Family Services particular space. Austin, I noticed you're still on. You had some space allocated. Do you have any comments on your space?
Thank you. No, I think my office space is what it is. We'll make do with that. And, being able to program for the greater community and all of the rest of the community space is what we'll do. We'll make anything work. That's what Beach and Rec does. I think that's what all town departments do. We just make it work. And I think, this being a first go at it is good. And, obviously there'll be, you guys will, run through it and give ideas back to Tom. And, he'll come back with others. But I think I'm satisfied with the way it looks right now.
Tom, could you go back up to the upper level, please? I believe if I'm correct with that location, I believe that's the thing that looks like the home ec room. Is that correct, Tom? Or do I have the building backwards?
Yes, no, that is the arts and crafts home ec room.
The Youth
that
and Family
would remain.
Services. No, the one for Youth and Family Services.
Oh, this here?
Yeah, is that the one that has the step up?
No. The one that has a step up would be this one at the end of the building, the left
Okay.
middle. And
Okay.
we're creating a ramp, we're creating a ramped corridor to get up there.
Okay. Okay, other than that, Tom, I like the idea of the storage in the basement, not the basement, the lower level. And putting Youth and Family Services together is I understand the needs, but I think Joan's, I also appreciate Joan's view that this is not a town building, a town office building. This was meant to be a community service. So let's take a look at all the needs before we allocate any permanent space.
That's good. One of the other things that, just to bring to your attention, was when I was interviewing with Austin and Scott, was it seems there will be a significant need for storage in the building. Whether it's for chair storage or equipment storage or program storage or recreation storage. That will provide lots of flexibility for programming for the center. And I kept, sort of like, just kept going back and forth. Where am I going to put storage in this building? And if you look at each floor, like the main floor, all of the key activity spaces are at the perimeter where the windows are. And while we have one space identified for storage, really that wants to be meeting program space. You want to get people to the windows. The only real space in this building that's ideal for storage is in the core of this lower level. So that's when we started stewing on the concept. How can we reallocate space and use less than ideal space for overall building and program storage, and use ideal space to get, programming, get people to the perimeter of the building. So that was one of the progenitors of that concept. So
in that third lower level, if you go back to the lower level,
yeah,
some of the things marked community space are actually, I believe they're not excavated.
that's correct. This is errant, and I have to fix this, but these two spaces are actual crawl spaces that should not say community space. This is all unexcavated. That's correct. My apology.
And is that capable of being excavated to create storage space? Again, in the middle of the building, there's nothing there that has to be upgraded. You just have to put up floor walls and whatever.
Yes, physically, but not without pretty significant financial commitment. We could look at that. I don't know if we would really want to spend the dollars there.
So are you
if we don't
saying,
have to.
so are we saying, because I can't see with these bad eyes, anything with that zigzag? Are those, and then
So-
the one to the far right, bottom right as well, those are all just crawl spaces?
Those are crawl spaces, yes, and they should be re-enumerated and rehatched. I will make sure that that's done immediately. But yeah, these three spaces are mostly inaccessible.
So I think it wouldn't hurt for us to potentially do another walkthrough focusing on this lower level. I know it's a little tough to envision because I know right now it's two separate spaces completely. But somewhere along the way, it appears as though, how does we go from a community space that's a crawl space on the lower right side, if we're looking at the slide, to something that's a higher level? Is there that much angle to the floors in the lower levels? So the
No,
bottom
there
right
was-
side.
Yeah, understood. There was actually, there's actually bedrock below there, and this is where the courtyard is. So the courtyard is actually at grade level.
Got it, okay.
So this really is not viable. And then behind that is just crawl space right now. So these
the-
two,
So yeah, so that's the courtyard. So it's below the, or it's courtyard space, so to speak, right? That middle
It's-
spot.
that middle spot will be unexcavated ultimately.
And the area marked gallery, that's currently unexcavated also.
Yeah, so
So
this,
there's sections of that are not, that there is no gallery there. That is, there's somewhere there's another crawl space.
that's correct. So right here, right where next to where the elevator is, right now, there's no connection. And as a part of this plan, we're proposing to make this corridor actually happen. We have to excavate this area anyways where the elevator is. So this allows us to create a connection to both sides of the basement level, allows us to provide full handicap access to both sides of the basement level. But going beyond this wall where the courtyard is would probably prove to be financially unfeasible. We could
know-
do it, but I don't think it would be a good expenditure of your dollars.
And I know Bill's not here, but I believe there are tanks underneath the courtyard. I believe there's some underground tankage for some of the wastewater. Or I'm not sure which, there may be something in there. But I think we're getting a little too far into the weeds here.
I think that's a tank. That's a tank for the original tank that fed the boilers before they put the addition on the building.
Okay, so let's just say that the takeaway here is this drawing has to be updated to indicate where the crawl space is that's not economically to be done, and if there's this existing crawl space in the gallery to note that.
Mhm. Yeah, and if there's anything that says community space, because right now that's really pumping up the square footage of the community space that's actually not real though. So we really need to make an understanding of what's truly real community space versus what is a crawl space that is unusable. And is the crawl space potential for storage? Is a question as well. How big of a crawl space is the crawl space? So those would, to me, would be some of the questions that I would want. Thank you.
And Tom, can I make a request for you? If you have any other meetings with any of the other groups, or if you have future meetings with Scott and or Austin, if you could invite someone from the committee, so we could be there for the discussion as well.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. I think somebody had their hand up just a second ago.
That was me. This is Eileen. I was just wondering if we want to consider getting rid of the kitchen and putting, making the front of that building on the lower level available for youth and family services. If we're going to think about everything, we maybe need to think about that. We don't have money for a commercial kitchen. I would think it would save us some money not to have any kitchen in there. It's just another thought.
Yeah, but unfortunately, the community wants some kind of place for learning that was one of the bigger things I was kind of,
Yeah,
that was the one that kind of surprised me. I don't know about anybody else.
That's the third level space. That's the walk-up space. That was the old home ec area. And that was the one that you could use, could be used for cooking classes. It doesn't take a commercial kitchen to, just takes a couple of inset, and I've seen them, a couple of inset burners and a refrigerator and, a couple of cabinets. It's not a tremendously huge operation like a commercial kitchen would.
It depends on what you mean by cooking. There's cooking, and then there's here's how to bake a cake, there's it could be interpreted a lot of different ways. But I don't disagree, Joe, that upper level could be used for some level of culinary, classes. But if you're talking about, full-blown cooking and, here's how you cook this or cook that, it could get very expensive very quick.
Yeah, I know. I did my kitchen 10 years ago, and I know how quickly that the money adds up, the costs add up.
I think what we're probably saying is we need to be open to ideas and not set anything in stone at this point in time, knowing that we're going to be looking at other places and also hearing from other stakeholders in the community. So, and we know the critical paths for both groups at this point. I think we're good. Thanks, Tom, for this. Is a good presentation. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Any anything further on the any other questions or anything further on the architects? No, okay. I think we already talked about the community center visits. We're going to I will reschedule one, and Eileen, you have one in the wings. You're going to see if you can get a time, so we can move past those two. Liaison and committee member remarks. Al, since liaison comes first, do you have anything that you'd like to add at this point?
I do not, and I appreciate the candor and honesty of the discussion that took place this afternoon. I compliment your committee, Joe, on asking the right kinds of questions. And I appreciate Tom Arcari's thoughtful analysis and coming up with different ideas about how we might handle things. So as far as I'm concerned, this committee is doing exactly what we, the selectmen, hoped it would be doing.
Thank you, Al. And I guess no other liaisons here. The liaison, and lastly, any public comment? Scott and Austin, I think this would be a place if you had any final words to say, since you're kind of members of the public, and also Jeannie, if you could tell us if anyone else who is on would like to who might raise their hand.
Yes,
to
you
make
have,
a comment.
Kevin has raised his hand.
Okay. I recognize Kevin. You have to promote him for him to speak?
Kevin, you're muted.
Hi, this is Kevin Ovian. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, hi. I'm really sorry. The last couple of meetings I joined, I had a lot of technical issues, and the one before there was an issue with the moderator and I was cut off. And so sorry about that. But hopefully you can hear me today. So yeah, I really just want to thank the committee. I think everyone's doing a really great job. I know it's a difficult job, and I've been attending some of the recent meetings, and I just want to applaud everyone for their great effort in this community center project. So thanks for that. I also wanted to follow up on kind of a question around the budget. And it goes back to the January meeting when you selected QA&M. And there were some, I actually watched the entire meeting on YouTube. I think it was recorded on YouTube. And you know, there was a comment made in the meeting minutes, which I wanted to ask the committee directly about, and it had to do with the budget. And the budget that was approved was 15.9 million, and that was the bonding amount would be reduced by any amount that was given by the state in terms of grants, I guess. And in that meeting, there were minutes. There was minutes made, and I'll just read the line. The committee agreed the importance of discussing additional funding at the next meeting, and specifically meeting with the Board of Selectmen, Board of Finance. So I guess my question is, and I appreciate earlier, I've listened to this meeting and I've heard a lot of comments from Tom and others about, you know, concern about the budget and how to manage the budget. So I know that's front and center to everyone in the meeting. So I guess my question is, you know, at this point, now the QA&M has been selected, you know, where are the numbers currently falling in line relative to the 15.9 million less any state grants?
Well, I will speak for the committee at this point in that we don't have any of those numbers yet. The process calls for us to come up with the first design and then get an estimate on that. And I think the schools that's where the schools are right now. You know, they're having some problems trying to define that for the public, define what comes next. But we're not there yet. There was some concern about the budget since it was developed fairly early, prior to COVID, and there were been some price increases because of COVID. The reason we wanted to meet with the board, that we ended up meeting with the first selectman, was to get a clear answer of what our budget was going to be. And we got the clear answer. It's 15.9 million. That's it. And we are building to that budget.
Just
Okay.
addition, if there are anyone in the public that's watching this meeting who would like to do donations, that's where we can have money increase. So if there's anybody out there willing to organize a PAC for specific projects and you want to donate that money directly, that's the only way to add on, not through grants, because the grants will just reduce the bonding, which is great. Don't get me wrong. I'm happy about that. But if there's somebody who would like to donate to this, that is absolutely acceptable. And that's the only way, to my knowledge, that we would be increasing the budget at this time. So go ahead, public. We've got a lot of good people out there. Start organizing.
And we don't know what that first estimate is going to be. We don't know if we could value engineer it to back down to the 15.9, or if we can value engineering up because it's going to be less. And until we get there, the only thing I wanted in that first, because I was the one who pushed for the meeting, the only thing I wanted was a clear answer. I didn't, and the sooner the sooner I had that information, the better. I needed it right from the beginning, so we could run the project together.
Okay.
At that number. So that's where we are.
Okay, so thank you. So there was a meeting that took place, and that was the feedback from the Board of Selectmen that it was to hold at 15.9 million.
Right.
Okay.
And the first $4 million grant and any future 4 million grants, any future grants offset the amount of bonding that the town has to do.
Okay, and that is consistent with what the town voted on. I
Yes, it
just
is.
would also point out that the 15.9 million was there was a $1.9 million increase from 2019 to when we actually voted on it, due to increases in cost of materials from 2019 until when the referendum took place, which I think was in
February.
2022.
I think it was February 2022.
Right. So it was increased by 1.9 million, but of course, costs continue to go up and you're fixed with this 15.9 million. So I thank you for taking my question. And I thank everyone's effort on the committee.
I have a couple of hands raised. So actually we'll go back to the liaison committee member comments, and Austin, I'll recognize you first if you don't mind, please, Joan. Okay, Austin.
Thank you. So I think, as you said earlier, I would be happy to, and I would encourage future meetings with Tom, Scott, myself, and members of the building committee. I think that would be helpful. If we could start doing those, I think that would be, the right path to take for all of us. So we're all on the same page and able to give our feedback in smaller groups and then report back to this committee if that would be possible.
Noted and affirmed, and that's why we're going to try to get the working group committee meetings started and scheduled.
Thank you.
And we have one team member, or one of our committee members, that I'm going to call tonight. I don't know if you missed that. But I'm going to call him tonight and see if he's available for the times that we have allotted currently for the working group meetings.
Thanks.
Okay. And Austin, if you take down your hand, and unless you have something else to say, and Joan, recognize Joan for comment.
So I just wanted to let people know, I was meeting with Helen Bosch, who's the director of Vista, and I was meeting with her on a different topic, and I brought up the possibility of the cafe and having Vista programming that and things like that. And she was very, very excited and would love to meet about that and get some more details and be able to. She thinks it's a really good, thoughtful program. We talked about the program that was in Fairfield County, and she thought that was very positive. We were talking about other stuff on the business side, but I figured I'd bring it up while I had her at lunch. and so she thought that's very positive. And, she said it takes a while to get these things understood, program and things like that. So would love to be able to meet with us or part of the working group if that's where that meeting should be held. But I just wanted to give you guys that information.
I have one last comment. Would anyone like to see I took photos while I was at the Rocky Hill. If we could extend, is there anyone who would like to leave, or anyone would like to stay to hold on and watch and see? It would take about 5 minutes at most. It's not a long presentation. So I'm going to need to be able to pull this up first. And picks. Okay, now how do I share my screen here? Who can help me with the share screen share?
Right in the middle bottom.
Share screen, right?
Yeah.
And how do I determine which screen? Oh, there it is. Okay. You should be able to see my screen. Is that correct?
Yeah.
This is Rocky Hill. This is pretty much the first thing you see when you walk in, and it is a counter for serving various drinks and small pastries. It is a volunteer. It's not a commercial enterprise. but it's nicely designed, but right now they're using it strictly as a volunteer activity.
Very
And
cool.
and the events notice, that's one of the first things you see when you come in. These Parks and Recreation and Senior, they have it in both in the same building. And again, something Tom talked about with the facing and an outside waiting area.
Mhm.
In addition to storage, one of the things they do is they have a mixture of keys and card keys to get into the various rooms. And they are in the process, I think, of going to all card keys, but right now they still have physical keys and card keys. Anything you would like to add at this point, Ann? Or why don't you just jump in when you get a minute, or when you feel like it?
Will do.
Okay. This is their community space. This is a very large room. Do you remember the capacity, Ann?
Was it 120?
It was something like that. And it's divisible into 3 different areas. And I guess that this is, I have some photos of this also. This is their cafe. This was their, and I think the next one's their kitchen. No, okay, the next one's the dividers. And I think you asked them about how the dividers work.
Yeah, I was concerned about noise control, and this is where they came forward with, their concern, or the thing that is bothering them about their installation is that the AV systems, there's one system, even though this room is dividable. So they encouraged us to make sure that if we're going to have a multi-purpose room that can be divided, that each sub area has its own AV controls.
We'll still a little more of that later. This is what they did for a kitchen. There's a lot of stainless steel here. I imagine this is expensive, but this is totally dysfunctional as a kitchen. I don't even think that the stove, they can't use the stove because the hood doesn't work. This is really a sterilizer, not even a dishwasher. This is the other side of that, the pull down that you saw. I think it's the other side. But I think the next one goes to storage. Oh no, there's the dishwasher that doesn't, or I guess it's just a sterilizer, and some kitchen stuff.
That's an oven.
That's an oven? Let's see. Let me go back. It is an oven. It's somewhere they said there was a dishwasher that wasn't functional, but thanks, Tom. Appreciate that. They talked about storage being adjacent to some of the storage requirements that were adjacent to the actual spaces where they'll be used, as opposed to just central storage. Big basketball court, wooden floor, by the way. They said the floor is some decades old. You remember, Ann? Okay, it's wooden.
15 years, I think.
Okay, and they do have to renew it probably annually, but they have a wooden floor, and they do have various events on here, so they managed to handle the wooden floor. What I mentioned earlier, they said this was their daycare / preschool. I'm not sure exactly what it is. I think they said preschool. And you want to?
I can't remember what they ended up calling it.
Yeah, maybe we got both, but it is the point was, if you're looking for something that where the town can charge money for, you get money back for, this was listed as one of the possibilities. And Austin, are you still on? No, I don't see him, so I'll guess no. But my wife remembers, Vanessa remembers preschools, at least 2 preschools in Madison that were run by Beach and Rec at the time. This is the outdoor section. This was an interesting ad, a health room. They have a nurse come in once a week. They do free blood pressure. Other, I don't know what else they did that, they might have, but that was the one thing they were doing at the time we were there. They had a stage, dance room with a floor that wasn't the most expensive floor we talked about, but it was a floor with some give. We asked a couple of things. I think we asked about what would you do differently. That was Ann's favorite question. I don't think we asked this, but this one came with some skepticism. This is a lift to the stage. So the stage is will be ADA compliant. And I think the point was they never use this. You know, it's a pretty significant expense and it's not used. Do you remember any of the other answers to the questions? What would you do differently? I know I think that the three-part room with three-part, what else they said they would do?
That was the main thing that they were disappointed in. I think they were pretty happy with the rest of the amenities.
Okay. There was one other
thing. And we asked them about their HVAC systems, and they seemed pleased with what they had there.
Their heating system is natural gas. So this is just a couple of views of what a natural gas heating system looks like. Their building was considerably smaller than ours. The gift shop, that looked like a non-functional thing, to know the truth. I don't think I'd recommend a gift shop. And this gets back to, now we're back in the room, the other end of the three-part room. This is the control system. Actually, this is an interface to the control system, which is actually behind the scenes somewhere. They also said, don't be sold fancy lights. Apparently these are impossible to clean, and they get occasionally kids or someone throwing wads of paper up like a basketball net. So it's not a favorite among the facility people. It's not a favorite.
Yeah, they basically said, do not buy those fixtures.
A pool room, which apparently gets a lot of use. They're thinking of putting a second pool table in with a sign-up sheet, low tech. Activity room. I guess this is the art room. Again, would look something like what we have been talking about for an art room. And they do have a gym in there now. The gym is much newer than the one we have at the town campus, and they do charge a fee for this. They charge a fee not for use of the room, but for the they have a fitness trainer come in, and so maybe it's just a fitness trainer that that charges the fee. This is the dance studio, softer floor. Now back to the fitness center. And I guess I think that's it. I don't like yep. That's the end of the photos I took.
I have a couple of publications from there, and I can bring them when we meet in person next time.
Okay. Any further comments? Hearing none, I'll call for a motion to adjourn.
I just want to verify, so the Tuesday, the 25th is an in-person?
It's a hybrid.
Oh, it is a hybrid. Okay,
So we're encouraging in person, but
cool.
It's a hybrid for anyone who is unable to make it in person.
All right, yeah, I'm just gonna make a note in my thing.
And all of them after that are hybrid through the end of the year.
And what's the meeting room that we'll be meeting then?
It goes back and forth between the Fishbowl and Hammonasset, and I don't remember which was which. One is
Okay.
One is all the Mondays and the other is all the Tuesdays.
Okay.
Jeannie, did you publish that? Did you, not publish it? Did you send that to everyone? I know you sent it to me.
I'm not at my desk, so I will check on that tomorrow.
Okay.
It's more the invitation that's in my calendar versus, that kind of thing. I just want to update that, so.
Oh, and John, by the way, in your report, your milestone schedule, it does list Zoom for the for the future meetings. It's not Zoom, it's in-person hybrid.
I'll adjust that. Go.
I think if Jean just updates the meeting that was sent from her or from Jacqueline, that should then be reflected and we'll get those changes that come through. So thank you.
Any other comments? Again, motion to adjourn. I think as committee chair, I can do that without a second. So meeting adjourned. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Joe.
Thank you.
Karen.
Bye.
Bye-bye.